Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new episode of Sports Insight with your host Alamdar Khan. And yes, we give you information about sports from all across the globe. You guys can surely reach out to us on our social media handle, which is @Indus News Sports. That basically works both for Twitter and for Instagram. But anyways, we'll go to the headlines first. And yes, from the World Premier League, Leeds manages to draw against Liverpool 1-1 on Tuesday. And yes, European Super League. Manchester United, Arsenal and Chelsea resigned from the ECA after European Super League announcement. And yes, from the world of NBA, Golden State Warriors win against the 76ers 107-96 on Tuesday. And yes, from the world of Asian Wrestling Championship, Deepak Punia bags silver in the 86 kilo category. And yes, those were the headlines. And not to forget that, there is so much happening in the world of sports these days. And yes, we are talking about football. We'll definitely starting off with the Premier League to begin with. And then we'll surely be talking about a controversial subject that's really raising a lot of eyebrows, which is the European Super League. But with us, we have James Rowe all the way from Amsterdam. James, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I hope everybody's well. Nice to be on.
Absolutely well. Anyways, James, we'll start off obviously discussing the Premier League to begin with. Leeds managing to draw against Liverpool 1-1 to begin with. What's your take on that one?
Well, I think last night just epitomised this Leeds under Marcelo Bielsa. They never give up. They never give in. It's a fantastic story what Marcelo Bielsa has done with Leeds United to change the culture of the club and for the club to be loved. I mean, in England, in many cases, the club is disliked. But now, in terms of the country and also in a European setting, people are really charmed by Leeds United and what Bielsa has done. He's a world-class manager who spawned the managerial careers of the likes of Diego Simeone, the likes of Pep Guardiola, the likes of Mauricio Pochettino. If it wasn't for Bielsa, these players wouldn't have gone on to be managers. He's the one that kind of inspired them to be managers and to want to go on and learn that trade. And it's just a fantastic story, which you only find in football. And I think it's very relevant that we're speaking about that on a day like today with the European Super League. We'll be speaking about that a little bit later. But Leeds under Bielsa is a fantastic story, and all plaudits to them. A fantastic tale. Right,
absolutely. And when we look into Liverpool's performance, obviously they have not been able to, grab that, sense of self as a team. I don't know. There have been a lot of ups and downs with regards to Liverpool's performance this season.
Absolutely. I think it's very difficult when you are reigning champion. It's difficult to. Obviously, the motivation is there, but everybody wants to beat you. I don't think they've been completely on pulse in the transfer market. They could have done better. Nice. And I think they're suffering a little bit from the turnaround that the teams had, obviously, with the situation with COVID, with having very short pre-seasons. Games are catching up with them. Right. But Klopp has still managed to win a Premier League and a Champions League title, so he's done very well at Liverpool. But you wonder what the future will hold for them.
Right. Anyways, let's hope all goes well. Ahead, we talk about Manchester United beating Burnley 3-1. What's your take on that match?
I think it shows that Manchester United are in great form, both at home and abroad. And I think they will go on to secure potentially second place in the Premier League, which is a good season for them. True. I think Edison Cavani has shown his worth again. He's a real top-class striker, not just for his country in Uruguay, but also from his days at Palermo. He was an excellent striker. Absolutely. And people know him of his time at Napoli as well. And I believe that Manchester United, they will think they have a great chance in the Europa League. They will believe that, and I believe they'll be fighting to the end. But they're just doing very well, particularly at home. Good talent such as Mason Greenwood as well. And, it just goes to show the size of the club. I mean, they're arguably the biggest club in England. Right. So it's good to see them hitting form at the right time.
Yes. And a quick take on Arsenal's victory against Fulham. And obviously it was they've not lost in the past 30 matches against them. What's your take on that one?
Well, I'm an Arsenal supporter as well as being a football writer. someone who interviews professional players and managers.
Right.
My team at the minute is struggling domestically. We're making progress in Europe, but at home, drawing with Fulham, who Scott Parker is doing an amazing job as Fulham manager. I think that needs to be said. You know, to get a team promoted to the Championship, to the Premier League is difficult, and he's done it really well, having only recently finished playing, really. But I think Arsenal blow very hot and cold. I think our problems start at the top with an owner who only really sees dollar signs instead of sporting merit, which is not great. Right. But hopefully Arsenal can salvage something this season in the Europa League.
Right. But now we talk about the thing that has really been happening. Talking about Arsenal, if we talk about Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Manchester City, Manchester United, Tottenham, amongst those 12 clubs have actually agreed to join the European Super League. What's your take? And it's really, really controversial right now. What's your take on that one?
Well, sadness first and foremost, and disappointment. It's a world game. I mean, obviously I'm in a privileged position where I interview professional players and managers on a regular basis. I've spoken to players and managers that are based all over the world, in South America, North America, Africa, the Middle East and Australia. Football is a world game. It's not a closed shop. True. And what is curious as well is if you look at the history of these teams, you know, Atletico Madrid, before the period and the period of Simeone, before the era of Simeone, they were known as losers that never won a sausage, that didn't win anything. And he changed the culture of the club. Arsenal as well, you know, we've never won the Champions League. Tottenham as well, always been a dangerous team domestically, but never really got over the line in European campaigns since the mid-80s.
Right.
And it's very much, you know, you need to respect the fact that it's a world game. Domestic football in countries needs to flourish, and that in turn helps the national teams. And I just think it's very, very strange. You know, money isn't everything. And I've spoken to many players, guys, over the years, and not every footballer is rich. Not every footballer lives in a 5-6 room mansion and has loads and loads of money. And you have to look at the other side of the picture, what happens to particularly young players when they don't play. In the case of Donny van der Beek at Manchester United, he captained Ajax.
But when we talk about the European Super League, what's been told is that all these teams actually want to get that money in flux and give it to the grassroots. That's their call on how they want to use this.
Well, they may well say that, but it also has to be shown in action. If you look at the regional divisions of Spain, when you go down from the second division, how does it grow from there on in? If you look at the pyramid system in England, I myself am based in the Netherlands. Right. And I like to point out to people that here in the Netherlands, in the Eredivisie, in the top division, and also the second division, all professional football clubs are obliged to hand in their books, their accounts, to the Dutch FA, upon which they receive supervision in terms of their financial doings and what they do. And if the Dutch FA find that a club has been living beyond their means, they can receive sanctions which range from anything from fines to points deductions to your professional license being revoked. It happened to RBC Roosendaal, who were playing Eredivisie football in a 2005-2006 season, and they're now playing in the amateur league with amateur teams on a Saturday afternoon because their professional license was revoked. So there needs to be consequences about what you do. I think the biggest problem is the commercialism of football, and also the fact you've got so many average players earning lots and lots of money, and there's lots and lots of interests at different levels of the football pyramid and the football chain.
Right. But if we look at our situation that's developing right now, is they've actually decided that, you know, they will not let, UEFA decided that, you know, they'll not let the players who actually join this league will not be a part of Premier League. And when we talk about Premier League, most of them, in fact, the top 6 are here. So how can we bring it to a conclusive side of getting them in control? Because it has been even spoken about it on the parliament today in the UK. So it's going to be a very tricky situation to bring that balance, because we still don't know. About 79% people are still saying that, you know, they're against it. Like Rooney said that, you know, they want to protect the pyramid, like you just mentioned. So how do you think things can fall into place of this Europe Super League that's actually been planned lately?
Well, I hope that common sense will win out, but obviously common sense is not so common. But you hope that fans will come together. You hope that national associations will come together, because when you work for a national association, it's not just a nice office job. You've got a responsibility to make the right decision.
Right.
You have to make the right decision in the best interest of your country.
Right.
And I hope that the football community will come together. Fans as well, they need to perhaps vote with their feet. Obviously, in COVID situations, they can't attend the stadiums, but also buying merchandise. My advice would be to not buy any merchandise regarding your club if that's the way you feel, because the quality of the merchandise is not what it was, and you're still feeding into the coffers of the club. So it's to just take that little bit of time and think what you can do to help destabilize them in that respect.
Right. Talking about 5 of the clubs are actually involved in the upcoming Championship League or the Europa League semi-finals next week, and UEFA is actually planning on and discussing it with the lawyers. Do you think there would be a kickoff? Because if this thing is not sorted, it would be very tricky for the world of football.
Well, I being an Arsenal fan, I will go on record as to say that the statement that Arsenal put out, I read it 3 times, and it was the language that really stuck in my throat. If UEFA do deem to kick out the participants in the Champions League and Europa League, I stand by that. I think that's a really good decision. Right. I think there needs to be consequences to what a team does, and I think UEFA would be full within their rights to do such a thing. I'm an advocate of that, even though it would hurt my club. We haven't won a European trophy for 27 years. Right. It would hurt them dearly, but there needs to be consequences to what you do. But no fans have been approached. Nothing has been discussed. It's very much a closed shop. But if you think of the stories in world football, you think of Leicester winning the Premier League. If you take Portugal, for example, you've got the likes of Benfica, FC Porto, Sporting Lisbon. But if you really dig down, it's the university towns of Braga and Guimarães who have been making the most progress in recent years in Portugal. So it's very much, you have to dig down and look very carefully. But football's a world game. It's completely unpredictable, full of stories. Right. If it was completely predictable, I don't think there'd be much of a pull and people would be watching it. We love it because it's 11 men or 11 women against another team of 11, and anything can happen. On their day, anybody can beat anybody. And this is something we need to cherish. Definitely.
Well, thank you, James Rowe. In short, I think we need to protect the pyramid. Thank you very much for being a part of the show.
You're more than welcome. I look forward to next time.
Great. So that was James, and yes, we definitely talked about the European Super League, on how devastating effects it can have. And yes, people are still discussing, and it's really, really a big subject right now, because there won't be a kickoff in the Premier League or in the Champions League, for instance, if things did not sort in well. But anyways, this was from the world of football. What we'll do is we'll take a quick break, and once we're back from the break, we'll further discuss more from the world of sports. Till then, see you guys after the break. And yes, welcome back from the break. And yes, it has been an interesting journey so far. Obviously, the first segment was a very interesting concept of, the European Super League thing that's happening. It's very controversial for now, but, we did have an interesting discussion with regards to that. But anyways, now we switch over to the world of basketball. And yes, basketball, there's so much happening in the world of NBA. And not only that, we wanted someone who really, really is into the world of NBA. And yes, we have Josh Reynolds all the way from the US joining us. Josh, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Great. All right, Josh, we'll start off obviously discussing the world of NBA. So the first match that I would want to talk about is obviously the Golden State Warriors victory against the 76ers. What's your take to begin with on that?
Absolutely. That game was unbelievable to start off. What Stephen Curry is doing right now is unlike anything I have ever seen in my whole life. Right. I'm only 29 years old, but what he has been able to do over the last 10 games is truly unbelievable, and something that I don't think I will ever be able to see again in my lifetime.
Absolutely. And everybody is like, he is trying to go from a version 2.0 to 3.0 to 4.0, and he's upgrading himself in each and every match and proving himself as like one of the most legendary, living legendary basketballer out there.
Yep, you're absolutely right. we already knew he was one of the greatest shooters of all time. And just again, what he's done over this last 10 games, really all season, he's essentially been alone. Yes, he's got Draymond Green, but with Klay Thompson out, like you said, he's just improved. And this little streak he's on over the last 10 games is really unbelievable. 72 3-pointers made over the last 10 games. Right. It's unlike anything that we'll ever get to see again.
Yes, he's also, what he's doing basically is like improving himself and testing his own skill. So we've seen like him making a record and then breaking that record and then making a record. So it's really interesting. And this specific victory of the Warriors against the 76ers, I think it was something meant to be. It would definitely bringing them up to the level that they really should be at.
Yeah, yep, I completely agree. I am a Philadelphia 76ers fan. They're the team that I cover. I'm a big believer in Joel Embiid. If he continues to be healthy and play at this pace, I think that he has a legitimate shot at the MVP. But like you said, this game was all about the Warriors and all about Stephen Curry, and it was impossible to not smile watching that game. Every three-pointer he made, especially with his brother Seth guarding him, which made it kind of fun as well. You just have to shake your head. He made some impossible shots, but it seems like he just does that night in and night out.
Right. And looking at the point ranges, he managed to score 49 points, and 10 of them were like straightforward three-pointers. He's been doing this so much that, all the fans out there, even if, like you said, that you support, the 76ers, like a lot of people do, but when it comes to this specific performance of Steph Curry, I think he's doing a brilliant job. And not to forget that he was also going through the injury, but I think as soon as he came back from the injury, I think he's absolutely phenomenal.
Yep, I couldn't possibly agree more. Yeah, it was, again, as a 76ers fan, you couldn't even be upset that they lost the game and that the Warriors won last night, because watching Steph Curry is just, it's a pleasure. And I hope that everybody gets to enjoy and can just take a step back and appreciate the greatness that we're seeing every night. And
I think that's what sports all about. We need to see those magical moments from a sportsman putting in their best for the team, and not only him, but I'm sure the whole team actually managed to bring it to that position. Otherwise, usually what happens is when you have that one player who is like Steph Curry, he's always marked. So it becomes very technically hard for him to score such amazing shots. And while being marked, sometimes he manages to do those magical three-pointers.
Yep, you nailed it. It's pretty amazing knowing that, hey, Stephen Curry is going to come down the court and going to score. You know that he's going to have the ball in his hands. You know he's going to shoot, and there's still nobody who can stop it. There were several plays last night where it looked like the Sixers tried to double team him once he got past half court, and he was still able to find a way and get out of it. Whether it was finding Draymond Green, who then again, Steph moves without the ball so well that it's just a pleasure to watch. As any basketball fan can appreciate, just obviously the greatness that is Steph Curry.
Absolutely, absolutely. But that was one of the match. Obviously, we'll just switch over to the next match that I want to talk about. Obviously, the Pistons defeating the Cavaliers 109-105. A very close call. What's your take on that one?
Absolutely. So the Pistons got out to a very, very hot start. Led by their young guard, Sadiq Bey, who is just incredible. That guy can shoot the ball. We talk about Steph Curry. Detroit, the Pistons have a bunch of young guys who have some promise. And, yeah, they got off to quite the start. Bey did not miss from three-pointer in the first quarter. Right. Got out to a huge lead. And then, obviously, Cleveland kind of came back and made it a game down the stretch there.
Right. Let's hope, the development goes well, because these young players eventually turn out to be those superstars that are actually hidden gems in the world of NBA, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Honestly, both teams have a bunch of young talent. You look at Cleveland's side, you've got Colin Sexton, Darius Garland. Their front court looked very promising. I'm a big fan of Colin Sexton. And then you flip over to Detroit's side, you've got Killian Hayes, Frank Jackson. You've got some of these young guys who are getting minutes as well. Right. Like you said, yeah, it's exciting as a fan of basketball and NBA basketball to see these young guys succeed.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one interesting match that I would surely want to talk about, and we cannot forget that, we'll talk about, obviously, Celtics versus the Bulls. And not to forget that Celtics and Bulls were in a position that, the Celtics were actually looking forward to their 7th straight victory against the Bulls. but I think the magic happened, and here we are talking about the points in which they could not do that, and the Bulls managed to score 102 to 96 to claim that victory.
Yep, you're absolutely right. It was a fun game to watch. Like you said, Boston has been on a hot streak, and they got Jaylen Brown back from injury. He sat last game against the Warriors. Right. So it was fun to see him come back, and Jason Tatum also had a triple-double, his first of his career, which I'm sure we will see. Excuse me.
No worries.
We will see plenty. We'll see plenty more from him. But yeah, it was a great game, and it was pretty wild to see Chicago kind of pull ahead and stop Boston's streak from continuing.
But the thing is, if we look back into Chicago, obviously the Bulls have not been able to come up to that point. But yes, they've been struggling lately. But I think they need to ensure more victories to come up on the top of the charts to begin with. Because I think with the team like theirs, I just think they still need that coordination, or they need that one little spark to keep them going. It's the consistency that actually breaks Bulls where they are right now.
Yep, you nailed it. It is. It's the consistency, and it's hard with Zach LaVine being out and kind of in and out, and Vucevic being traded from Orlando. They're just trying to kind of put the pieces together. Right. But obviously, the more that they play, the more comfortable they'll get with each other. They'll be able to kind of stack some wins up. But yeah, yesterday, Vucevic just, exactly what you're going to get from him every single night, and he did it again last night. And I was surprised down the stretch where Boston tied it up late, and then Chicago was just able to pull ahead. Vucevic is just too good, and it was kind of funny to see Daniel Tice, the center for Chicago, backup center, who Boston ended up trading away. So it was kind of funny to see him as his revenge game, if you want to call it that. But yeah, it was pretty crazy to see Chicago pull ahead, especially on the road in Boston.
Right. So Josh, tell me, what would be the upcoming matches? Like any specific match that you're looking forward to? Because we would definitely want to keep track on that, because there are a few things happening, because obviously the season is kind of developing even more. So what's the upcoming ones that one should actually have it marked to ensure that they see it?
Absolutely. If you're going to circle any game on your calendar, upcoming is the Philadelphia 76ers and the Phoenix Suns. A potential NBA Finals preview. Phoenix is playing unbelievable. They're second in the West right now. Right. They're coming out to Philadelphia, who obviously is the first seed in the East. So that's the game that I've kept my eye on for a while. And I'm really looking forward to how these teams match up. On paper, I mean, top to bottom, both rosters look really, really good. And that should be a very exciting matchup.
Interesting. We'll surely keep an eye on that. And, when it comes to the Brooklyn Nets, that there's someone that, we'd surely want to keep an eye open up for, because obviously James Harden injury is one of the things that they're facing right now. But we need to see the trio line things up in a better way for them.
Yep, you're exactly right. Injuries have really bit Brooklyn, and it's kind of been unfortunate for them. I think everybody in the NBA knows that once those guys get healthy, when Kevin Durant is back fully, when James Harden comes back, you've got Kyrie Irving doing his thing, obviously Blake Griffin, and they, on paper, should be unstoppable. So like you said, yeah, Brooklyn is definitely one of those teams to keep an eye on, especially once they get healthy. Hopefully we get to see the core of superstars get some games in together before the playoffs roll around. Right.
Well, thank you, Josh, for being a part of the show and discussing the inside scoop on the world of NBA.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
Great. So that was, and yes, he did discuss the inside of the world of NBA. And yes, there's so much more coming. Can't wait to look forward to the 76ers versus the Sun. And that's one of the games that you surely need to get marked. But anyways, that was the world of NBA. We'll switch over to the world of wrestling. Yes, talking about wrestling, the Asian Wrestling Championship. Yes, it's been interesting. Deepak Punia actually managed to win the silver medal at the Asian Wrestling Championship, and Sanjeet, who won his bronze playoff match against Uzbekistan. So that's pretty interesting, and India's actually won 7 medals from the men freestyle event. And even if you look back into the history, the first time they ever won was back in 2018 when they grabbed the first ever gold, which is kind of lucky. And obviously when it comes to sports, you have to ensure that you put in your level best. But anyways, congratulations to them. Anyways, guys, this was pretty much it from the world of sport. If you guys want to reach out to us, you can on our social media handle, which is @of Indus News Sports. Till then, take good care of yourself, and bye-bye.